Here, one of my coworkers did a nice job. Mark Dietz, a buyout basically guide of the players who are available, and we're gonna go through it. And I want to hear your opinions. If you guys are in agreement with my takes on potential teams and effects, but I do want to say this. One of my friends says it best. Will Upton, aka Jackson Elstro. Guys who are on the buyout market are on the buyout market for a reason. For the most part, buyout guys are being bought out because they're not effective enough to be paid or be on the roster. So take that with a grain of salt. Look at what we saw at what Terrence Ross, Will Barton, and the last couple of years. The impact they make is marginal. So, I don't think in the last 5 years we've had a buyout candidate win a team a championship. Now, shout out Mark Dietz, my coworker, for this one. And we're going to go ahead and start this with good old Davis Bertans. He's going to get bought out for $17 million. And a little thing, second tax apron teams are unable to get him. So any team that is the Boston Celtics, Denver Nuggets, Golden State Warriors, Los Angeles Clippers, Miami Heat, Milwaukee Bucks, and Phoenix Suns cannot sign anyone whose former contract is over $12 million. So when you see Davis Bertans, who's still on the Charlotte Hornets, if he were to get bought out, he would have to go to under the cap team. And in a weird way, I feel like the Cleveland Cavaliers would love Davis Bertans. All right, yeah, they have a plethora of shooters already, but this is a team that we heard them connected to every 6'8" plus shooting player forward, basically. PJ Washington was a guy we heard. I swear we heard Kuzma at a point. I want to say there was way more guys that we were hearing throughout that time that they were just connecting every single moment. It felt like if it was a 6'8" shooter, they were interested in. And I feel like even though Davis doesn't give them the defense that a guy like Washington, Kuzma, Siakam, or any of those guys, I mean, Siakam isn't a shooter, but just the naming off guys who were traded or could have been traded, Davis Bertans doesn't give you any defense, but goddamn is the Latvian laser a great shooter. So I definitely think he's a guy of interest. And look, 39.8% three-point shooter. Seth Curry, he's making $4 million, so a lot of contending teams from the Clippers, the Lakers, the Heat, I could see all want them. In a weird way, the one team that I do see, okay, so Curry's having a bad year. And for Curry, no offense, Seth, your one skill is that like you're a really, really good three-point shooter. Like basically maybe a level or two below your brother, which is like pretty good. And the problem is that you don't provide much else. Like, I'm sorry, you're a career 2 rebounds a game, 2 assist game guy. You're a turnstile on defense. 10.5. I mean, I always forget you were a 15-point per game scorer at stretches. Okay, so kudos to you there, man. But I first off, I'm more of a Seth Curry fan than a Steph Curry. I've always said this. I loved Seth Curry, like coming out of Duke, first played at Liberty, like so obviously he's an elite shooter, runs in the family, and I think he's gonna go to the Warriors. If he gets cut and he goes to a team, I don't know why, but it feels like he's at the end of his rope and he knows it. And I feel like this is the one year he could probably convince his brother to convince the Warriors to put him on the team because the Warriors actually freaking benefit from having a guy like Seth Curry. But Seth Curry's been abysmal this year shooting wise in terms of what he's usually at. So that's my 2 cents. I don't think there's going to be a huge market for Curry because the problem is a lot of the guys in free agency that are being bought out are shooters who can't do anything else but shoot. So Spencer Dinwiddie, this one's easy, guys. He's either going to Dallas or the Lakers is the reason that we're hearing. And I personally think he's going to Dallas because I think Spencer Dinwiddie has one more payday potentially in him, and I think he knows that. And no offense to the Lakers, even though he's a hometown kid, and I know we saw him with Rob Pelinka last night. I personally think that we saw what he played on. He knows what the system they have in Dallas is. He knows he would be their sixth man. He knows what role, and he knows that's the most. He was almost a 50% field goal shooter in that time with Dallas. He knows what this team is capable of. They went on a Western Conference Finals, and he actually played defense with them. So he knows if he just finishes the season with Dallas, he could potentially walk away with a whole new payday coming for him in the offseason. And obviously, albeit I believe it'll just be a 1 or 2 year deal, but I think there's a better chance for him to have success in the with Dallas because he can then rebuild his value. And yeah, he's over the age of 30, but this is the last time he could get paid this summer, like a 1 or 2 year deal, mid-level exception. And then maybe he chooses Lakers in the offseason. I think he'll go to Dallas. No, Evan Fournier. I don't even know. So Evan Fournier is like in the Joe. I know Joe Harris was hurt, and Evan Fournier is a guy who he's on Detroit. They have a team option for next season. I think like the thought process when you see him up first is Joe Harris, obviously, but I don't think this is going to be a Joe Harris situation. I think they want this to be a Bojan Bogdanovic situation where they look at Evan Fournier and they go, Evan, you remember when you used to play in Orlando? You remember that? And he's going to be like, yeah, but it's been so long. And they're like, yeah, but like that last season in Orlando, you were basically a 20 points per game scorer, till they traded you to Boston. And in the year before, he was 18 and a half. So for me, I think if they can get Evan Fournier back to what he was in Orlando, where he's an adept 3 level scorer who's a swing man who can play the 2 or the 3, who will hit threes, pull up jumpers, and finish in the paint. He can be a secondary playmaker for himself and for others. And he's a decent 3-point shooter. Obviously, he's poor laterally, so he's not the greatest defender, but he puts in a good effort. And he's been a bad performer in the playoffs, but he's a freaking superstar in FIBA basketball with France. I mean, the guy is 6'7". I think they're going to do that because they have the team option. And then they could probably flip Fournier to a good team. Because Fournier's been a guy who's shown he has had success in the past. Also, his shoes look way too loose for me. Danilo Galinari, I think he goes to a team either like the Lakers, the Clippers, the Suns, the Heat, the Cavaliers, maybe the Knicks or the Nuggets. I think all of those teams would love Danilo Galinari off the bench. And obviously, 20 years. He's been playing basketball for 20 years at the age of 35. Gallo scored 50 points in 79 minutes with the Pistons. That's beautiful. I'm sorry, I don't think there's an NBA career for Joe Harris. So, I mean, he's averaged 2.5 points on 36% shooting in 15 games. He's never shot less than 42% from 3-point range, and at 32, he does have time for a second wind. I just don't I think he's going to be a guy that if he really wants to make it back in the NBA, he'd have to go spend the rest of the season in the G League. And he could get signed by a playoff contender if he tears it up by the end of the season, or he'll go into the summer as a guy who people like. But I don't know. I think it just didn't work out. Killian Hayes, I was talking about this on the NBA show, link in the description, that Killian Hayes, a team like Charlotte, San Antonio, I want to say besides that, Charlotte and San Antonio, Washington, those 3 teams would all benefit tremendously from getting Killian Hayes. I personally would sign him to a 3-year deal for this year. We'll do a full guarantee to finish the year. Next year, we'll do a partial guaranteed deal. And the 3rd year is fully non-guaranteed. And that way we have an out as an organization if it doesn't work out, or at least the contract will be tradable. But yeah, if I'm Charlotte or any of those other teams that I mentioned, like San Antonio, you're running Trey Jones out there, okay? Killian Hayes and Trey Jones, both defensive pass first guys, except Trey Jones can use both hands. Calianays, they got rid of Teo Maladon. They waived Frank Ntilikina and Ish Smith, the Hornets. So you got nothing to lose there, guys. Now, the Wizards, they kept Tyus Jones and DeLon, right? So there isn't going to be a clear path for playing time. But I think at that point, I mean, you can benefit from it. Dude, they're saying contending teams wanted Daniel House. At this point, I expect Daniel House to either go to the Rockets or go to the Knicks or the Celtics. I don't know. I don't value Daniel House that much. And he's out giving you 4 points a game. I just don't think, Daniel House is he hasn't been as good as he was a few years ago. Corey Joseph, he wasn't even getting that much playing time with the Warriors, and he's not really that effective. He was playing, he played regularly, but he wasn't, that effective. So, I don't know. I just don't think there was, a place for him right now. He might go overseas. And then Robin Lopez. This one was definitely a salary cap thing. They essentially paid to move his salary for a player that wasn't going to get there because they saved money on their hefty tax bill while also potentially getting themselves into the buyout conversation, the Bucks. Now the Kings are waived him already, and anybody who sides Robin Lopez wants that hook shot and the brick wall that he is on screens. Now Kyle Lowry, who never played a game and will never play a game with Charlotte, is more than likely going to get waived, and he's going to go to Philadelphia. Patty Mills, I don't even know Patty Mills. He got passed around like a hooker this offseason, and he's still not even playing for the Hawks regularly. And at this point, I think he goes back to Australia. He doesn't have anything really left. Marcus Morris, he's going to go to Dallas. I think he goes and joins his brother. Jetty Osman, I could see a team like Boston taking him, or Miami, or Los Angeles Lakers because of LeBron. Jetty's kind of like a jack of all trades. He can put the ball on the ground. He can rebound. He's not a good defender, but he tries. He can score, but he's not elite at it. He's just a jack of all trades, but a master of none. Derrick Rose is old, man. The problem with a lot of these guards is they're old. Their three-point shot is shaky. They're not the best defenders. That's a big problem here. And, yeah. DeLon Wright, I don't know if we'll buy him out, but if we're good people, we'll buy him out and he'll end up in Denver. But that was basically it. Let us know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Go check out Hoops Hype. This is by Mark Dietz. But that's it from me, guys. Love y'all.